You can see last time we had a little image of Zed Sun, it looked like they had all 6 riders still going around Volcano. So there we go. No, they have dropped someone now. So it's mano a mano, 5 versus 5 for Zed Sun versus the Aero Flyers. That is definitely the battle tonight. And AHDRL, Ace of Cakes, they're going to drop off, not lose their lead, but it's going to make a very, very exciting last couple of races in this APAC Division League, because that unassailable lead I was talking about at the start of the show, look how easily that can change just over one race. You lose a few positions and oh no, actually I am looking at Zed Sun here. They do have 6 riders, so they've been pulling in some pretty good time over the Aero Flies. You can see at the 16k mark they're about 8 seconds back, and then coming into the 22k mark they're only 4 seconds back. So if they can keep this formation going with the 6 riders, I think it could be them on the line.
Well, it's a little bit messy too. I think that with some really small improvements that they can actually pick up a little bit of speed. Their heart rates are pretty high. We're watching Lee here. Heart rate 175. That is absolute threshold heart rate, if not above, which is great because they aren't too far from the finish. This is kind of, I mean, this is more than the business end of the race, Anna. This is absolutely where it could all count when the time checks are so close. So for Zed Sun, if they were earlier on in the race and there were these gaps opening up, I would say, oh my gosh, you've got to get it together. But at this point, I think it really will make the absolute difference to them if they can push as hard as they possibly can. And it's a bit hold on for survival. If they only finish with 4, then that could be their fastest strategy. So they need to make sure that they ramp it up and leave absolutely nothing out there, because the competition is on the overall standings. They are absolutely neck to neck. Out there, they are neck to neck. The Aero Flyers and Zed Sun are just absolutely throwing the gauntlet down here today. We're seeing some gaps open up, but like I said, they're coming into these closing kilometres. Is the best strategy to just leave nothing left.
Yeah, I think this is where teams sort of make a mistake. You hit sort of 2K, 1500 meters to go. It just needs to be on Discord, all in, all in, all in. And whoever drops, you can drop 2 riders here, Zed Sun, just go for it now. We can see they've got Schlesinger and as well Danette Shaw, who we know perform extremely well on the scratch races. As we see Danette here move to the front, I think she's just going to start pushing her team and just saying, let's go, girls. We've got nothing to lose. We've got to leave it all on the line.
Yeah, it's some really high consistent powers. All of their heart rates are fairly up. But what we want to see is that the power be fairly consistent. So we're watching Carberry at the moment, and we can see top left of screen, the power is a bit all over the shop. That's not her fault. It's simply the draft effect and the way that the team is riding. But ideally at this point in the race, we would just see high power output from all of them, because the draft effect, at this point in real life, Anna, if they're half a metre off each other's wheel because they're all fighting so hard just to keep the wheel, that's kind of a good outcome. And that's exactly what we're seeing now, is that some gaps are opening up, but we don't need to be worried about that. All that means is that they're really starting to push the pace coming into this finish. It is a pretty flat course. They are on a slightly false flat downhill. If you're not careful, your power can really drop on these false flat downhills. So they need to be watching their power and make sure that they can just consistently deliver that as soon as they get out of that slipstream, accelerate and continue to build on that pace.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of say to our team, head down, go nuts. Now's the time to do that. They're coming so close to the finish line. It's just, I guess, get Schlesinger, get Shaw off on the front. Those 2 just push pace. I think right now they need to drop a couple of riders. They don't really need to be carrying all this to the finish. And I'll tell you that Aero, we know that they've got some good sprinters and they've got some good power. I think they'll be really pushing at the end. And from what I'm seeing here, oh, I don't know. I think it's going to be a close one, but I think Zed Sun perhaps just isn't pushing as hard as they really need to be coming into these final, you'd almost say meters now. You can see they've ridden just on 27 kilometers. Danette is at the front, riding about 5 watts per kg just there for a moment. You can see Schlesinger desperately trying to get back on pace, but they really need to push this up to 6.5 there from Carberry. So I think this is it. I think the word's gone out on Discord. Let's go. Stop this. We don't need to stay in a line anymore. We're so close. Just go for it, girls. Let's get this done. Let's win the race.
Yeah, that's it. They are strung out. It's a good skew of riders, I think. All of the riders have been putting in pretty even powers, and that is really the key to the overall success and to going quite fast. This is the closest we've seen to date. They were 4 seconds apart at that 22 kilometer time check. Each one getting faster. So Zed Sun has really been picking up the momentum and the pace. I think inwardly they can be quite confident with their finishing time that at each intermediate split they've actually come closer and closer to the aero flyers who did fly out of that pen. So as they come into the finish now, and this is it for Zed Sun as they go through that arch, and if we look at the top right of screen, we could see that. So they have now gone through that finish. We are now waiting for the aero flyers. We're looking at
They're
aero
about to
on
finish
screen at
too.
the moment. They're not too
So
far
they've
behind. So if we look
no,
top right of
I think that's
screen, we can
close.
see that finish arch. And let's see, and then we'll get the results up as quickly as we can. But Aero do look like they're belting into the finish. They've only got 5 riders, and they are coming up onto catching a team, which certainly gives them a little bit of a
And look at
carrot.
that,
This is going to be
Vesna
pretty tight.
O'Connell, 5.7. She, we talked about it earlier, mum of 4, hasn't been on a bike for longer than 6 months, and she's pushing off the front at 5.7. So phenomenal riding. Love how she looks as well with that orange headband. But I think Aero may have it. I think they finished very, very strong there. We'll have to see those results coming up as we progress through. Watching the Cryogen Ravens here. So they've had 4 riders for, I think, pretty much since the get-go. So good job on them making it through. It's a tough week course when you've only got 4 there, and it looks like they are struggling a bit. There's not sort of a big sprint to the line like we've seen with some of the others. They're just sort of maintaining power and rolling over for what would have been a hard day in the office.
Yeah, it's certainly very different strategy when you have 4 riders versus 6, because you really can't afford to push it too much because you will see gaps open up. So Ace of Cakes, who sit on the top of the chart, they are still with their 4. What is important is that they finish in the top 4 today. It's also important that they finish with 4 riders at least to make sure that they can cross the line as a group. We can see Hose just off the back there. She's not actually from Ace of Cakes. She's from BRT. So we don't need to worry that they've dropped a rider. They have actually had 4 out on course the whole time. And they've done a pretty good job of holding that together because it's a fairly inexperienced combination. So that always throws a bit of a cat amongst the pigeons. But the more experienced riders, certainly Willix and McKay, have been looking after Hurst and McMaster out there, which is kudos to them. So let's see if the Ace of Cakes can hold on to that top 4, because that's what we need. So we've got so much information on screen. We can see the split times on the bottom left. If we look at the top right, that is where they are on course, and you will be able to see that finish arch ahead of them, even though you can't see that on the main screen. On the top left of screen is the rider's individual power, heart rate, and cadence. 95 cadence is a nice solid cadence from McMaster. So the junior, she's one to watch for the future. She's doing really well. And then if we look to the right of screen below the map, we can see how many watts per kg they're putting out, which gives a bit of an indication of where they're at in terms of effort. So we're looking at Kim Willix here. She's been pretty solid rider over the series, Anna, and she's taken that team through the finish line there. So again, kudos to the Ace of Cakes. We've seen them on the top of the table every week, and sometimes it's not the easiest thing to head out there and not be on the top of the table, but they've done a pretty good job to finish in that top 4. So we're over to the men now. We've got a bit of a tight race here as well, Anna. So for the men, equally as we just saw for the women, it's absolutely not over yet. And there's a bit of a tight race between Relentless and ZWC. And if past teams' time trials are anything to go by, DPAC will also put in a strong showing today.
Yeah, DPAC, ZWC, Relentless. They're sort of the 3 teams to watch. There's a tight race on the top. ZWC just ahead of Relentless, about 3 points ahead, and then DPAC another 6 points behind them. But like we saw in that women's race, all it takes is sort of an off day with one team, and they go from first, and then they can be, just 1 point ahead, like we've seen with AHDR Ace of Cake. So I know Relentless in the last team time trial beat ZWC by 12 seconds. So that was extremely tight in the top of this men's field in the APAC division. And from having talked to the Relentless crew, they are absolutely motivated. I mean, if anyone didn't know, they're getting up at 3 in the morning to race these races because that's the time it works. They're all fathers, they've all got kids, and that's the time that it works for them to do their racing. I mean, I couldn't do it. I don't know if I could get up and race at 3 in the morning like they do, but there we go. They're motivated, obviously, and they want to make it to that Prem division.
Well, we've been up with kids at 3 a.m, but it's a slightly different experience, isn't it, to getting on your bike and racing. It is very impressive that Relentless do that. And last time we actually saw Grasicki. Was it the last team's time trial, Anna, that we wondered if he had a mechanical because he was missing in action out there? Because that can happen as well. We need to remember that while they can't get flat tires or broken chains, well, I mean, they can get broken chains, but that would be unusual on a trainer. And just quietly, to anyone out there who experiences that, perhaps you need to oil your chain between trainer sessions with all the sweat. But we also think that within the men's division, Anna, it can also happen, men's, women's, that they have kind of technical faults where they might have internet dropouts or some problems with that. So if we do see riders suddenly missing in action, that's often what it is.
And it does look like here like we have a great battle in the women's C division. Like I talked about, BRT, Fiery Kittens, and TBR Smile On, who I do believe are tied at the top of the points. So this is a huge night for them to see who can come out on top. And look how close it is, 8 seconds. TBR had an amazing team time trial a couple of weeks ago. They actually got my Team of the Day award for that one. And they're having a great one here too. There is definitely a battle on between the BRT Fiery Kittens and TBR Smile On. We were just watching We Ate the Cake now. They're about 40 seconds off the pace at the last time check, but still with 6 riders and some good bike setups there, and it looks like they're finishing very strong there with 6 watts a kg from A Reed.
Well, they're actually pretty tight overall. The top 4 are within less than a minute and a half, and that's actually fairly tight based on what we've seen on other weeks. We're seeing an overtake here. Oh, goodness, and they've just come through the finish. I was like, what are all these people doing on the side? But that's what's going on, for a little bit of context there. Because a lot of the riders, the reason there's so many of them, Anna, is because they cross the finish line and they just double click stop pedaling, and their avatars just stop moving. And so that's why they're all there. So we're looking at Joe Lees from the Degenerates. What a great name. The Degenerates out on course. And Div C has a lot of teams that, again, it's not dissimilar to the A, and have been just improving week on week on week and really becoming a lot more cohesive. Their speeds have been improving, and a lot of these teams want to move up divisions as well.
Exactly. I do want to give a little shout out here to Herd, who we can just see on the was on the right hand side of the screen there. They're a team that's prevalent on Zwift, and my 70-year-old father has just started riding for Herd. So I'm loving this team. They're very, very inclusive, and they have some great easygoing rides during the week. My dad went and did his first time up Epic Climb and Radio Tower today, and it was a good 90-minute ride. So thanks, Herd. I'm loving what you're doing for the community.
Oh, that's really cool. I love those stories. As much as we, sort of cheerlead all the parents that are getting on with young kids because we know how challenging that is, I think it's really cool to see retirees jumping on the bike and experiencing everything that we are in the digital world. So we do actually have some women's results in. We'll get them up as quick as we can for the A. The C's are still coming in, and they're doing a really good job. Herd, look, they look really neat, Anna. I think that they've been paying a lot of attention to making sure that they are uniform and making sure that they all stay together, because a consideration in these C leagues especially is that there's often a bit of a differential in powers between their top rider and the riders below, and that's something that they need to be really considerate at, because we've already talked about what can happen when the strongest rider causes a bit of havoc. So this is the split times for the C. 8 seconds at the 22K mark between the Fiery Kittens and the TBR Smile On. They're doing such a good job. I mean, massive kudos, Anna, to these teams who have turned up week in and week out and improved absolutely out of sight. And I also want massive kudos to AHDRL as a group and a community, because they've got 5 different teams in this league. They might be getting a little bit frustrated though, because they're sitting 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, but maybe not 1st or 2nd. So good on them, and hopefully in the next coming weeks they can certainly keep building and improving on that. But again, awesome job that they're doing for the community. The Fiery Kittens on top, TBR Smile On. Let's head back to the men and see what's going on over there. There is a very tight race folding out between Relentless DPAC there in the men's, as well as Team ZWC Attack. But race 3R we're looking at the moment. This is a bit of danger time, Anna. A few gaps opening up, and they're only at the 18.3 kilometre mark. It's a bit too early to have these gaps, and it suggests that Milburn needs to temper that power a little bit and make sure that he can let his teammates catch back up, because some real fatigue can build when you are not on that wheel. The draft effect, it's around 35% when you're in the draft, but when you're not in the draft, you can really feel like you're just getting spat out the back.
Yeah, I think that was not a great move there from Chidley coming over the top. So you saw there was a gap between Milburn and Vale, and then Chidley came over the top at 6 watts a kg and just made the gap more. So maybe not so much of a cohesive unit. It kind of, if anyone knows about this team, let me know on the socials. But I think what it looks like is a newish team working together, and you're sort of out there trying to prove yourself. So when you take the lead, you just go into hero mode and sort of forget about the gaps behind you. And it looked like they did that a little bit. I will, because I have seen some comments come through about those aero helmets. I have had some viewers come back to me about a 4-watt power saving. So doesn't hurt, Get that aero helmet on, save 4 watts.
Every watt, right? I mean, Ineos or Team Sky have made many Tour de France victories out of this whole marginal gains idea, which is the idea that every 1% counts. That there's nothing that you would bother saying, it's not really worth it. Everything is worth it. So 4 watts, I would definitely take that. That'll make some difference. Whether it makes the difference that you need, well, that remains to be seen, but it's certainly worth the effort. So we're looking at KC here. Looks like there's a little bit of a gap back to... Oh, no, he's been dropped, it looks like. So he's a bit adrift, 30 seconds adrift from his team. And he started this team, so he is responsible for getting this crew out there. So very big high five for that effort, because a lot of effort goes into all of the team managers out there who certainly herd all the riders together and get them on the platform. So good on him. He's been cut adrift a bit, but good on him for getting that crew together. We're looking at CRT. Now, we've got 5 riders. They're looking pretty good. They're actually rolling pretty good turns. Anna, we've talked about whether short turns are better or longer turns. We haven't yet tonight seen a team that has very clearly executed either strategy. We've had a bit more blobbing going on and a few more individual riders taking control of the pace. But perhaps as we get into
that was messy.
Relentless and DPAC, we might see a little bit more smooth. But this is tough. So they're going up the volcano here. There's some little pinches, and they need to be really careful, because the smallest acceleration up a climb when you're feeling good versus somebody who's on the limit is not pretty. And this little turnaround to the left is also a little bit of a tough one. Now, we need to bear in mind that when they go over the top here, the drop down and the descent, it's not a big enough descent that you can get into a power tuck. So nobody can actually take a big breather down there. You actually really have to pedal down there. And then you get onto the gravel section. And that can be challenging. We've talked about why in terms of lack of visibility and also just how much harder it is. So this can be a really critical time to make sure they look after each other.
Yeah, if you're watching, one thing to really keep an eye on is those watts per kg on the right-hand side of the screen you can see. So the reason I sort of said before it was a little bit messy is because you can see at the moment you've got Tyler King leading about 6 watts. The crucial thing to look at is when Tyler drops off, when the pace of the next rider comes up. And what we saw before is the next rider came through. You can just sort of see it happening again now. The next rider's coming through nowhere near that sort of 6 watt that Tyler King was holding. And it just slows the speed down. And that's sort of not what you want. You want that next rider to come through at a similar sort of nice wattage, keep that pace high, and really don't drop the speed. So, if you're watching from home and wanting some tips for your own team, or sort of wondering what this is all about, is those are good little numbers to keep an eye on. And that's where you see the really good teams, as the transitions are just buttery smooth. As we watch Zed Sun here, there's a rider just dropping off the back there, but it looks like they've caught up. We've got that full aero setup riding on the front. I think that's, can't quite see their name, from Smoother Zed Sun. I'm not sure if that was a Zed Sun team I was keeping an eye on, but Strachan here, they're riding around that 44k an hour mark. Looks like they just rode past a rider from another team, but they're looking all right. They're not in that sort of single file format, which is what we want to see out of the team time trial. That's the sort of best teams you see. If you want to look at the Prem Division and the Canyon Esport or Hino, that's what they look like. This team's bunched up a little bit more, but they are catching up to CRT, and we might just stay with this vision and look at them execute the pass, see if there's any drama, or if all the passes have looked pretty good tonight, I'd say, Katie.
Well, I mean, I must say I had to have a giggle when you said buttery smooth. You make it sound almost quite romantic. And team's time trials are anything but that. I mean, your lungs are on fire and your legs are on fire. And it is absolutely a mental game where so many times during a team's time trial, you say, I can't do this anymore. And then it's almost giving yourself a pep talk. No, I've got this. No, I can't do this anymore. No, I've got this. And I think there's probably only 1% of riders out there who are comfortable and really happy and backing themselves. It is quite an art to get a smooth transition between each turn with a team. Each week they have been getting better, but it does take a lot of practice. And I think that we're kind of getting to see a lot of the practice happening. And that's pretty cool that we're, through this community league, we're really living through the execution of these new strategies, and we're watching them develop and grow, not only as individuals, but as teams. And I definitely will say that I love seeing teams that are willing to fail in order to succeed. So teams who go out too hard and mushroom cloud and blow up, I say good on them for giving it a go. Because I think you don't know if you never know. And if you're always just really conservative in your approach, there's not a lot of marginal gains in being quite conservative. So we've got Cryogen Super Banieres, which is a beautiful climb in France. It has featured in the Tour de France many times, as all of the Cryogen teams are named after mountains. And they are a bit of a dog's breakfast, Anna. They are all over the shop.
Yeah, they're not looking super strong. I do want to just note a comment that I've seen come through that apparently the Evo Savages have fielded a ridiculously good-looking team this week. So I don't know if that's good power-wise or just good-looking. So Ben, maybe go back to that one. But they've fielded a ridiculously good-looking team this week, and the battle league positions for 4, 5, and 6 is very close. So that could be one to watch. And we're seeing here the Evo team looking very good in that pink, almost what's that old Tour de France team, Lamprey? I remember they had a beautiful pink kit.
Yes, it
looks great in their team time trial.
To the old Lamprey kit. Yeah, good pick. Especially for a triathlete, not to rib you too much on that, but you're probably busy riding around with invisible socks on and aero helmet.
I actually got hassled the other day for how long my socks were. So I've almost gone other side of cycling. I'm just wearing socks that are too long, so who knows?
Oh, it's
But
a sock length is a big thing in the Australian cycling scene as to legitimacy.
um, so yeah, that's this.
I don't often silence you, Anna, but I love it when I do.
It doesn't happen often, Katie. So one to you. I think you're getting
Yeah,
me
there
back
you
from
go.
last week.
All right. Look, we're looking at Team ZWC. This is the team, one of the teams to beat tonight. So, Team ZWC Attack, Relentless, and Deepak are the three to watch. I want to note that at that intermediate sprint, Team ZWC went through that 8K split in 9:54. The winner of the Prem League in this race was Canyon Esports. They went through in 9:56. You're picking up what I'm putting down. That is 2 seconds faster by Team ZWC Attack on the start. By the second split, they were only 2 seconds different to Canyon Esports. They are absolutely rocketing along. This is the best performance we've seen to date for this team. They're doing an overtake at the moment. I hope it doesn't get too messy. Evo need to just respect them and get out of the way. They're doing a really good job doing that. There's a bit of an art to the overtake and making sure your team stays together, and also the team being overtaken is able to stay together. So ZWC, Anna, they are absolutely
They're on
throwing everything
fire.
out there tonight.
Oh, they sure are. I mean, I don't think they would have felt good about Relentless beating them last week, even though it was only 12 seconds, and they are out here and they are throwing it down. I mean, I'll be here. We have it. Here's got Relentless. So we've got Yama here, who was a little bit of a controversial addition to the team. I think taken off another team, but this is Relentless, and I don't see any technical issues here. So it looks like they might have a full suite of riders, but they are getting a bit caught up in Deepak just behind. But I can see Lindsay from Deepak there. So they've come through Deepak. That is phenomenal. So Relentless and ZWC, this is amazing racing at the top end of this men's APAC Div 1. And it looks like we've got the full suite of Relentless. You've got Yama, Cantanazaro, Grasicki, Duffy Jr., one of your faves, and they Ottstot as well. I'm not sure I've seen Ottstot before, so I'll see if I can pull up some stats there. But there might be some words here soon, because Deepak is not backing off as much as you would want. Lindsay has pulled up the pace and is getting definite draft benefit there from the Relentless team, so he's really going to have to pull back. So there's not words as they ride through another team, the PNX team. So Relentless, to their name, is being absolutely relentless on this course, led out by Cantanazaro.
They are on a good one. So they've got Ottstot. Balaj Galambos is also out there. We haven't seen a lot of him, but he's got some pretty good numbers. Brian Duffy Jr., we know he's a triathlete, and he's got quite a lot of punch as well. He'll need to be careful in the team's time trial when he comes through to the front that he doesn't accelerate too much and open a gap, because that is something that can really easily happen for riders who are a bit punchier and almost don't realise their strength. We're watching Drew Ginn on screen at the moment. He's one of the Aussie heroes of rowing, an Olympic gold medalist, and rather famous in Australia. He's been in a few TV ads that have made him a bit of a household name. He's an absolute monster on the bike. I tell you what, if he had have chosen cycling over rowing, I think he would have had an equally as gold-filled, successful Olympic career. So it's great to see him spending a lot of time on the bike now, and I think that cycling has given him a whole new community after he retired from rowing. I love that. I love the different stories that come out of this, and a lot of the athletes who turn to cycling to be part of something and part of a community. So very good to see him. He is the kind of rider who can go all day. So he's what I would call a diesel. You know, he doesn't really slow down, but he doesn't necessarily have a lot of punch either. So if I see little gaps opening up to Drew, it doesn't worry me, because I know that he will be able to just motor back on bit by bit. And he's not the kind of rider that it would bother too much. So they're looking pretty neat out there at the moment, I must say. They're a bit blobby rather than a strung out line, but there's pretty high powers. I mean, look at Drew Ginn. He's over 400 watts. So we're back to Relentless now. Grosicki, he's a rider that has performed week in and week out. They're moving fast, and they are looking as that strung out line rather than the blob. This is what we've been kind of waiting to see, Anna. We've been talking about how to perfectly execute a team's time trial. We are seeing it in action here.
Oh, this is an education. I've just had a little bit of a look at some stats on OTSDOT. So, an ex-pro triathlete turned Zwift racer and a proud team member of Team Relentless. So, just like you were saying before, it comes from a different code, but now a proud Zwift racer. And he was pushing off the front at 7 watts a kg. They're holding some insane power and some insane pace. So, this team going up against ZWC Attack, I mean, this is game on. We can see there at the 22K split, though, ZWC 27-12, Relentless 27-29. Oh, so I don't know what's going to happen on the finish line, but it looks like ZWC may have taken back the TTT crown from Relentless in this week's racing. I do want to quickly mention as well, though, the tight race that we have between Evo Savages and the Aero team we had on screen before. There's only 1 point separating them, 4th and 5th. Last week, Aero beat Evo, but Evo's sitting higher on the placings. So that's another little sort of battle within the race happening tonight.
It's kind of a race within a race. I love that. I must say, I am so super impressed that Team ZWC Attack, yes, they're on the top of the table, only 3 points ahead of Relentless. That's certainly not an unassailable lead. But their time tonight is blowing my mind, blistering. I mean, they are currently not too far off the time that Canyon won the Prem League in. They went through split 3 in 26:59. So Relentless not too far behind. The mostly Japanese crew here, I think it's really a combination of them just working so well together. Earlier, Anna, we talked about different kinds of teams and how they might succeed. We thought that for the most part, a team with 3 riders who are strong and 3 who trail behind a bit is not nearly as efficient and as fast as a team with 6 fairly even riders. We're kind of seeing that in action with Team ZWC, but we're looking at Relentless now. They continue to be very neat and very well executed. Tiny little gaps are opening up, but they don't last for very long, and it's fairly controlled in the way they want to do it. Grosicki, I want to make sure that when he swings off, he doesn't actually take an opportunity to freewheel. We can see a little gap opening up at the back there. And they always say your effort, Anna, is not over until you're back on the group. So you don't swing off and take a breather. You don't take that breather until you're actually on the back of the group. So Relentless looking quite good here, quite neat. We expected that. We've kind of been waiting, haven't we, for a team to look a bit textbook for us. They are 17 seconds adrift. Look at me with my elementary maths. 17 seconds adrift of Team ZWC Attack, but they are looking very neat.
Yeah, it looks like the gap between ZWC and Relentless grew over the race. So it started off at only 6 seconds between the two of them, then 10 seconds, and then, like you said, 17. So I think ZWC may take it out tonight over Relentless, which will be very interesting as far as the overall standings go, because it's a tight race at the top, 3 points between them. That could be 4, but who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of races. As we just watch Aero cross the line back to Relentless here. Looks like they have dropped off a rider off the back just as they're coming to the end. That's Cantanazaro, who they ejected near the end, and Deepak here with McKay, Lindsay. They got passed actually by Relentless during the race, so they are still sitting probably around 3rd place. It won't see much of a change in their standings. They're 3rd overall and came 3rd in the team time trial last week, so they're liking that bronze medal position at the moment. I don't know if they like it, but that's where they're there.
Well, they're consistent, if nothing else, so good on them for that. It's not a problem that Cantanazaro was dropped off the back there, because that is definitely a strength of that crew, is that they have been strategically very good. You want to finish with 4 riders. You don't need to finish with 5. And if the best way to do that is to use a rider up, then so be it. We don't get to see every meter of them pedaling, so we don't necessarily get to know what what reason a rider might be getting dropped. But we can certainly know from past weeks that Kent Nazaro has performed really well. Okay, we're looking now at the Div B here. Anna, we're looking at the TV team. This is not quite as neat as we've just seen in the A Div, but they do look to be ticking along pretty well at 44 kilometres an hour. We want to make sure no attacking there at the front, Parry, because you're putting a little bit
I think
too
they're right
much
near the
distance
end. I'm
into your
hoping.
riders. Yes,
Yeah.
oh, you're right. They are right near the end, but they do still need to make sure that they finish. But so we've got MRRB here. They've got 6 of them. They're looking fairly civilised. They're moving pretty quick, 45k an hour coming up to the finish line. So a bit of a hot race happening here in the men's.
That poor guy
Div
without
B,
the yellow jersey on.
Yeah, what's going on there? Is that a bit? That's like a he missed the memo there. He's the one that turned up to the Christmas party without his Christmas outfit on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you just feel wouldn't really part of the team, would you, with 5 other yellow riders around you? But anyway,
well, especially now that you've called him out.
I know. Not by name. I wasn't sure who it was, but
no.
next time wear your yellow jersey. This is an interesting one. 3 riders here to the Tune team. So it's not a great result because that won't validate it if they haven't got their 4th rider. And I can't see anybody
no, this is
there.
Not ideal.
This does not look like a great finish.
For everybody to remember, you need to finish with 4 because the time is taken off the 4th rider. So they've finished, but the time won't actually stop for them until rider number 4 crosses the line. Now, if he's over it and has double-clicked, well, they're heck out of luck because they're not going to end up finishing with the time. So Velo Club are absolutely flying here, and goodness, don't they look neat? Look at them. They're going 3 or 4k an hour faster than we've seen the other teams. They are very on trend here with their bike choice and their kit, so they're looking pretty fancy for that, and they're looking pretty neat, and they're moving along too. So high heart rate too there, finishing there, which is good. They've pushed themselves all the way to the line. Wonder Boy Randall, I like that name. So in the big ring, 49-2. They are also finishing with 4 and looking pretty neat. There's a whole lot of Tron bikes happening in this B division.
This is one of my favourite teams. Yeah, I talked a little bit about Hurt before. My husband's part of Dirt, so we've got a whole family of Zwift races, and Dirt I just love. Dad's inside riding trainers. They've got a great little kit there with a baby bottle instead of a drink bottle on the back of their jersey, and oh here we go, you can see it. Beautiful little baby bottle there, a little moustache and some glasses, and great for these guys to get out. It's full team of 6 there, so they'll have a little baby somewhere asleep in their house, and good job, Dirt.
Yeah, good on them, and I really hope they don't, when they go out IRL, they don't take the baby bottle over the bidden, because that would be a little bit of a shock when they went for a drink, wouldn't it? We're looking at Vision APAC here, so of course we're looking at the APAC racing tonight. All the community leagues are worldwide, which is really cool, and in different time zones. We've talked about how Relentless get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to join the APAC League, which is great because it fits in around their busy schedules. As parents, having normal jobs, inverted commas, what is a normal job, but it's great to see so many people out here racing. So Vision APAC are finishing now. Sizakov leading them over the line. They had 5 riders. Cryogen here, they've got 4 riders. So we've only, thankfully, Anna, we've only seen one team cross with 3, and we hope the other rider made his way to the finish eventually.
Hopefully. Maybe they're still out there, having a bit of a latte out at the volcano.
Keep riding, buddy. It's a tough day. We've all been there. Yeah. But, you can get there. Go on, you can do this. Yeah. No. We had a bunch ride around this course this morning, and there are a few nastier points than you may realise. It does look dead flat, but around that volcano and certainly through the Italian villas with the gravel, it can be tough. So look at this, the big ring, 49 tooth here. They are getting caught up with the Aero. There's a bit of an overtake happening there, but they've got quite similar jerseys, so it kind of looked like they were all blobbing along, like maybe a little bit of confusion.
Exactly. All the purple jerseys in the women's race were getting a bit confused, and all the green jerseys in the men's race. AHDR blowfly set. That's a bit of a different kit for AHDR. The blue kit, not the purple. And five riders. I always like seeing